Now we're seeing Bitcoin not looking so bad, at this point, about back to about that 70,000 level after falling below that yesterday. So we see the greed, the fear greed index right now printing 76 points. That's still extreme greed in this market. So everyone's investors want to know where the top will be, for this market. Definitely looking out for what's going to happen next in this market, but still a very greedy market. Let's look at some headlines now in the crypto space. We see Uniswap, they're bracing for SEC legal battle that's in the US. They received a Wells notice from the SEC indicating an upcoming enforcement action. The announcement led to about 16% drop in Uni's value. That's a token for the Uniswap decentralized exchange, dropped from about $11 to $9. Uniswap Labs founder Hayden Adams expressed readiness to challenge the SEC, possibly up to the Supreme Court. Now we see Bitcoin mining difficulty that hits a record high, about 86.4 trillion, and that's just before the halving. And definitely, we know the halving makes it difficult to mine more Bitcoin. The difficulty of mining Bitcoin continues to increase in anticipation of the historic halving event, which is currently in the process of reducing miners' incentives by about 50%. So that's a big number. Then South Africa, the South African regulator, they've licensed Luno. That's one of the cryptocurrency platforms there as the country's largest and oldest crypto asset service provider. The license will help them operate as a financial services provider, and that's in South Africa. All right, let's bring in Gilbert Jopata now. He's a team lead right there. Join us, also financial market reporter right there. Great to have you, Gilbert. Talk to me now. We see value days destroyed. That's an indicator, has signaled the top of this bull market. And I'm wondering, is the top in at this point?
All right, for value days destroyed indicator, just like any other indicator out there, it is my view that readings are useful, but they shouldn't always be taken at face value because they are always subject to interpretation by an analyst. And this isn't the first time that the value days destroy indicator is signaling the top of the market. We've seen this happen before where the value day indicator signal market top, and yet the market moved ahead with the surge, leaving investors who were taking the indicator for what it is. Just like I think 2 years ago, that was January 2021, when Bitcoin was sitting at about $40,000. This same indicator signaled a market top, and yet we went ahead to still see over a 61,000 BTC in March, which is at about 52% gain from where the indicator initially called the top. For value day, I actually know that value day is actually signaling the top as a result of Grayscale Trust, shedding away over 15 billion in assets. I think this is what's skewed the indicator. But then whether the bull market is over, it requires more of a comprehensive analysis, which will include macroeconomics, investor sentiment. We still look at market structure and then price action. So for retail investors who may be thinking alone, this is why there is always need for market analysts out there who could always interpret most happenings in the marketplace. And then, in the cryptocurrency industry, we don't just exist alone. We exist in communities. And I think that's why there's also need for retail investors as well to also be members of reputable cryptocurrency communities for traders and investors, because they just can't think alone. It is always good you move into this market with like-minded investors and also gain access to expert guidance and analysis.
Right. All right, Gilbert, before I let you go now, very quickly, Uniswap received the Wells notice from the SEC with charges, imminent. How do you see this impacting Uniswap?
Okay, whenever I look at regulatory development and then landscape, I like looking at it as somebody who is coming from the future. Because even though we are global players, wherever we are in the world, we are citizens of different countries. And then there is also our country as well. It also has its own regulatory structure it may as well build. So the Uniswap have decided to challenge this in court, to the highest order. But then when we look at what's happening, I think the SEC is just trying to assess dominance in the market. There is more of a dominance between the commodity markets and the SEC because they are looking for whose jurisdiction is this to regulate the market. But then, and I think the more cases the commodity regulators have, the more they assess dominance in the market. Likewise, also for the SEC. But then when I look at it as somebody who is coming for the future in our own country, when we look at the regulatory development in Europe, then I think entrepreneurs here in Nigeria can start to assess and decide not to do certain things that have been seen to be wrong when you look at Europe. Likewise, also our regulators here in Nigeria, once they build a more solid regulatory landscape, I think we could learn from Europe to build a more better industry here in Nigeria.
Right. I guess it's all about regulation for the crypto market, and the decentralized exchanges are not left out. Thank you so much for joining us, Gilbert Jopata, lead analyst at Smart Investors Launch. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.